Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Everyday Excellence. I'm your host, Todd Baldwin, and today I'm joined by Chris Black, owner of Mighty Dog Roofing of Waynesboro and Martinsburg, West Virginia. Chris has one of the more interesting paths into the roofing business. Before roofing, he spent years in IT, cyber, enterprise sales, and consulting. After retiring once, he decided he wanted to build something that could create income and long-term value instead of simply watching the market go up and down. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks.
I appreciate you jumping on, man. I was looking forward to talking to you because you've got an interesting story because you retired once, right? And lived that life for a while, and you said you got tired of watching the market go up and down and thought you would jump back in the game. What made you decide on the roofing industry and going with the Mighty Dog Roofing franchise model?
A couple things. One, believe it or not, roofing's not 100% recession proof, but close. When your roof's leaking. You need it fixed, and that was part of it. I enjoy the home exterior business. Um, the reason that I went the franchise route was really quite simply a speed to market thing. Rather than try and figure it out, there's a lot of expense in learning, and this was a way to reduce some of the learning curve and get a jump start on the business. It's interesting in a franchise situation with roofing, as opposed to, I don't know, like McDonald's, for example. McDonald's comes in and they tell you exactly what patty to use for what burger. They tell you exactly how to turn to put the sauce on and how to turn to dip the fries. And there's really little left to the imagination or creativity. And that consistency is great for that model. For our model, my roofing business is not the same as a person's roofing business in Florida, where they do a lot of tile roofs, they have hurricanes, that kind of stuff. And so when we say independently owned and operated, we truly mean independently owned and operated. We negotiate our rates with our distributors ourselves. How we decide to outfit the team with trucks, that's our decision. So there's a lot of it gave me, yes, a ramp to market, but it also allowed me some entrepreneurial spirit and some creativity with how I run the business.
Sure. Well, congrats for jumping off what I call that entrepreneur cliff because I always say everybody wants to be an entrepreneur until it's time to jump, right? It's scary. Um, I mentioned you retired, right? And basically, when we were talking on our prep call, you just said you got tired of watching the market dictate your future. So, what was going through your mind at that stage?
So the plan was about a year before this happened. So I was probably in the 59, 60-year-old range. I had thought about this, like 65, I'll work till I'm 65 and then I'll quit. And so I started looking for what could I do to generate income. And I had a little conversation with my financial planner, and I said, I think I could make more money with my money than what you are.
Yeah,
And so that was kind of how the conversation started. And you'd save and save and save, but that money is sitting there really beholding to the market, as opposed to creating wealth in a way that's more dynamic and a little bit more. I was willing to bet on myself,
sure.
and so what happened was we ended up making the decision to make the acquisition. The company I was working for restructured. Um, there were several of us that were duplicitous in role, and so we were asked to go find somewhere else to be excellent. And rather than move around in the company into another position or maybe find another company or whatever, I kind of was at this point where it was like, I don't really need another job. And so why not invest that time into something that I can grow, that I can control, and that I solely will benefit from, as opposed to helping other companies become great. And, you
Sure.
know, so
I'm curious, how did your financial planner react to your comment about
We
"Hey, I can make more money with my money than you can."
every year we get together and we just say, well, how's it going? So year one, he won.
Yeah?
Year two, we were about even. Year three, I edged him out a little bit, and year four, it looks like I'm gonna make it true.
Cool.
So
Good for you, man. I love it, but I love people betting on themselves, right? And so, I mean,
if
control
you
your own
can't,
destiny, right?
yeah, if you can't, then I'm not saying that everybody should go do this. That's not by any means what I'm trying to get at, or that I'm some kind of wizard that,
Sure.
but one of the things that's interesting is that if I sell this business or if I choose to um, embark on another endeavor with the revenue from this business, those are things that I get to make the decision on. And again, the market can do what the market does. With the Strait of Hormuz, every day I'm gonna nuke them off the planet. We're at talks. I love those people. We're gonna nuke them off the planet, and you watch the market respond
Yeah.
every day, and it's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna ignore it. I'm just gonna go do my thing. We've added a couple of reps this year. We added the West Virginia territory, so we've got Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia now, which gives us about an hour and a half drive in a circle. So it's a pretty good geographic area to be doing business in.
I'm glad you brought that up because I just mentioned the West Virginia, and so you have other what are all your territories? What all areas do you serve?
So South Central Pennsylvania, we have Franklin, Fulton, and Adams counties, right dead center of that Pennsylvania rectangle, right on the southern border. And because we're only 5 miles away from Maryland, we married that up with Washington, Frederick, and Carroll counties that kind of border
Okay.
us on the bottom. And then to complete the pie, the Eastern Panhandle, which, by the way, are the three wealthiest counties in West Virginia, fortuitously, kind of round out the circle, if you will. And so Martinsburg was central to that Eastern Panhandle, so that's why the office was open there.
Well, I apologize. My introduction was a little off then, but you definitely have more territory than those two areas I mentioned. But I'm curious what made you. I know you looked at other industries. What just stood out about the Mighty Dog Roofing franchise or that model that made you say, "Hey, this I'm going to go. I'm going to jump into this."
Yeah. Yeah, you think, how do you go from selling cybersecurity solutions, and enterprise IT to roofing and siding and windows and doors? And so, um, interestingly enough, the customer engagement model is not too disparate from what you do in IT sales. The customer could go straight to the manufacturer and often did do that in the enterprise, and they would negotiate things with a Dell or an HP or, you know, other, fat manufacturers, Palo Alto, Fortinet, whatever firewalls. And and so people would say, well, what value do you bring to the value added reseller? Where's the value? And one of the things that we discovered in around the 2008 timeframe was we knew customers were not going to buy. The market was, 2008. Everybody remembers 2008, right? And and so what our ownership decided to do was double down on education. And through education, people make better and more informed decisions. And through that, I learned that the first to educate wins. And in this model where, everybody says a shingle is a shingle is a shingle, a window is a window is a window, it's not really true. And when you deal with these products every day, you soon realize there's a difference in these manufacturers, and it's important that people understand what the difference is. And if you're a homeowner, the chances are you don't know much about roofing. You don't know the difference between Certainteed or a Norandex or Hardy Board or whoever siding. Provia Windows, there's this little company in Sugar Creek, Ohio, that happens to be silently taking over the window and door market, and so their products are incredibly good. And so it's like the opportunity to share that knowledge with a homeowner before they make an acquisition of something as substantial as a roof or all new windows or residing their home, uh, it's the same consultative approach that we did in IT. Why would you choose a Palo Alto firewall over a Fortinet firewall? Well, it depends on the architecture and it depends on what business outcome you're trying to achieve. There is a reason why you might want to choose one over the other, and here's what the reason is. And if that's a compelling reason, and they were unable to ascertain that from the manufacturer themselves, because let's face it, if I worked for Owens Corning and you asked me about shingles, the answer is always going to be Owens Corning.
Mhm.
If you ask me about siding and I work for Certainty, the answer is always going to be Certainty. But if you ask me what the answer is, I'll tell you what the differences in the market are. I'll tell you why I like one over the other. But you, Mr. Customer, have the option of making the choice.
Yeah, I like the education, the first educate wins mindset. I agree with that. I see that a lot in our business with digital marketing and really trying to explain what it is we're doing and the why, and just educate them. And my in my world right now, there's a huge shift too with AI and Google made the biggest announcement they made in 25 years. Are no longer going to see the blue links, and so like I tell our clients, hey, they still if they're looking for a roofer, they still got to serve up. They're still going to serve up roofers, but how they decide who to serve up is totally changing, right? And so it's a big shift, and a lot of websites that have done well in the past are going to get hammered if they don't make that adjustment in how they're producing their content and so forth. But we'll talk about marketing. We'll dive in because I know you like marketing too here in that topic in a minute. I got ahead of myself. I wanted to ask you, and typically I ask this at the beginning, but so I know you do roofing, but you do all things exterior, right? Are you doing siding and windows too, or is the majority roofing? Tell us what all it is you do for the client, for the homeowner.
Sure. So roofing, siding, windows, gutters are the core four pillars, if you will. This year we've added decks. We get a lot of customers that ask about decks. I happen to have a guy on the team who is a nut for all things decks and all the materials in decks, and can sit and wax poetic about deck materials forever, and loves the first to educate wins model. And so it made sense for us to do that. We've also been asked by a lot of customers about solar panels, and so we did in the January February timeframe where I live. We don't do a lot of roofing, and that's when we do all of our training. And so we did go and get some training on solar panel installations. And again, there's a difference in the rack systems that are used to put those panels on the roof. Which ones might leak, which ones won't leak. And as a roofing company, we care a lot about that. So those are the kinds of things that we do.
Okay. Love it. Um, I want to talk about family because you had mentioned that your general manager is your son-in-law and you have another son-in-law that's involved as well. So what's it been like building this business with family?
We're in our fourth year, and so the
Okay.
honeymoon's over.
Sure.
Um,
I'm
there's
only smiling because I got my business start of owning a business with family. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, my son-in-law was started out his career in nursing, and had evolved in his career to where he was the director of nursing, and had moved into a management role. And COVID happened, and I think a lot of healthcare providers during COVID, I think that their perspective on things changed considerably, for myriad reasons. And he was talking about maybe wanting to make a change. At about the same time, I was talking about launching this business, and I said, "Well, how would you like to be the general manager for this business?" Because my intent was that I was going to buy this and be a semi-absentee owner. I wanted somebody else to go do the day to day, and I wanted to do what I want to do when I want to do it, kind of thing. And he said, I don't know anything about that industry. And I said, I think that's great, because I think in this industry, there are a lot of people who will tell you, I've been doing this for 50 years, and I'm going to share a story about family. I'm going to share a story about my dad. when I was about 16 or 17, you know that age where you know everything?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have
So
a
my
son.
dad, I grew up on a farm in the Midwest, and my dad and I were having a conversation about doing some work, and he said, "We're gonna do it this way." And I said, "Well, I think it'd be better if we did it this way." And he said, "We've been doing it this way for 50 years." And I said, "That just means you've perfected doing it wrong.
Yeah,
You've perfected doing it wrong. You could take a completely different approach, and maybe it's a better approach and a simpler approach and a more efficient approach." I'm not going to tell you how the conversation ended, but
only met.
the last thing he said to me was, "You better get a job using your brain." That
Yeah,
that was the result of the answer. You better get a job where you use your brain, and you better have a good brain, because if you don't, you're going to have a strong back. And so that led down the path of IT and all that kind of stuff. But when we started this, we had the opportunity to look at this business with a completely fresh perspective. And as a homeowner, we've all gone through the trials and tribulations of buying a roof or buying siding or picking windows for a house build. And it's never really pleasant for the homeowner, because they just feel inundated with information, and not necessarily information that leads to a really point blank answer.
sure.
And it's kind of like the IT thing, right? If you hear Dell talk about their servers, and then the HP guy comes in and talks about his servers, it sounds like they're just parroting one another, and you're still left with, I don't know which one to buy.
Yeah,
And so the consultant can come in and say, "Here's what you're trying to achieve. This is going to be a better fit, and here's why it's a better fit." And then they have this revelatory moment, and they're really appreciative. I mean, they absolutely, "I'm going to spend $80 million with you, and I'm so happy." And I'm thinking to myself, "I'm so happy you're going to spend $80 million with me too."
sure.
Right? But
100%.
it was when you talk to these people, they're like, "You explain to me why it matters, not what it is, but why it matters." And our business is the same way. And there's a lot of guys that are slinging roof jobs that have been doing the same old thing forever, and they've just perfected doing it wrong.
No, it
And
makes sense. Different, not being in it, you come in with a kind of a different view, right? And how can we do this maybe different? Really focus, it sounds like, on that education process. Um, how's the so you're 4 years in, you said the honeymoon's over with the family, so I'm assuming the two son-in-laws are still in the business, right?
they are.
Okay.
Um,
All
so
right.
son-in-law, I'll say number one because he came first, not because he's my favorite. In case Ryan or Ethan are watching this podcast sometime in the future, but Ethan was the first, and then Ryan showed an interest, and Ryan showed an interest in the deck materials and stuff, and has a mechanical, kind of a mindset where the structural engineering of a deck and the materials that are used in a deck really resonate with him. And so he's working with us where, he works a job where he's like 5 o'clock in the morning till like 3:30 in the afternoon. Well, in the summertime, he's like, "Man, 4 o'clock till dark, I could be out selling stuff, to homeowners, and Saturdays." And you know how that youth is, right? They can go burn the calendar like that. Um, but he's doing well. He's actually like, "Hey, what would it look like for me to be full time?" And I said, "That's kind of up to you. Here's what the potential is." But that leads me to the digital marketing thing, which we'll segue to. But it's nice to sit down with your two sons-in-law and have a conversation about the direction of the business, and know that their answers are in your best interest, and know that their interests are aligned with your interests. I don't think there's a lot of butting heads. I think there's just a lot of good opinions. And like any solution, the best solution usually comes from a little bit of conflict, healthy conflict.
Yeah, not everybody's gonna agree.
They shouldn't. I
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to hire a yes man. I would say that Ethan's probably more difficult to sway one way or the other. Ryan is a little bit more amenable to. He's more of a go with the flow kind of guy. But because of the way Ethan thinks and the way he does things, he's been a phenomenal general manager. I think there are some owners that when I talk about my GM, they get a little jealous, and they ask me, like, "Where did you find a guy in the industry?" Da 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 da. And I said, hold on. I didn't find him from the industry.
Yeah.
We're learning this business from the business up, not from the roof down.
Yeah.
And so it's been great. And we are in our fourth year. We've established some goals each year. We've been so far lucky to get really close to those goals every year. Sometimes we exceed those goals. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been fun to work with them. I know the wives get a little cranky when we talk about work when we're not at work.
Sure. Yeah. It's
Um,
hard not to though. Did you mentioned something that I thought was interesting. You said that you like going out on sales calls a few times a week. I'm
I
just curious
do.
why. Yeah. Why is that important to you at this stage?
I think the first year, I was an absentee owner. I did payroll every couple of weeks, and that was really it. I managed some marketing stuff in the background, and my job, as I looked at it, was to provide them a good platform to be successful with. But how they chose to run the day to day, I had some bumpers, but that was it. Ethan figured it out and did a great job. But I did feel a little disconnected from the business, and after the first year of sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing, it got a little boring. And I have a lot of hobbies and a lot of things I could get into, but there's a how guys compartmentalize things, right? There was this little part over here where I needed something to fill in that blank,
Sure.
and I made the decision to expand down into West Virginia, and Ethan was kind of opposed to it and said, we could poke around down there, and I said, well, they're buying territories really close, right across the river, in Northern Virginia. If we don't move, we might lose it. And this is the fastest growing three counties in West Virginia. They're right there. Why not? And so I took it. I said, well, he goes, we don't even have anybody that lives down there. And I said, well, I'll cover it. How it can't be that busy that I'm down there about 5 days a week now, but which is a good thing. It's a good problem to have. But what I do know is I can honestly tell some of the other sales guys, look, here's what's working for me with customers. And my close rate is, this because of this, and I can
Sure.
I can point to those things, and I think it gives a little bit more context, and I think it gives a lot more credibility and relevance when I'm giving instructions and they know that I'm out there every day doing what they're doing. And so we've had some interesting conversations. Our sales model is different than everybody else's. Most people will grow to a point, hire a production manager. Um, I believe that the first person the customer sees should be the last person the customer sees. And I don't like some other sales models where a sales guy talks to me for 3 hours, closes the deal, I never see him again. And I think there are missed opportunities too.
Sure.
The relationship building with the homeowner, it may be a roof today, it could be siding tomorrow, could be windows next year, who knows? But if we don't develop the rapport with the customer, we won't ever know. They'll go back to Google searching for that next guy for siding, and it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we do siding, and let's do a good job on the roof and let them call us back and do other things for them, by doing the right things. But also from a production management perspective, when the sales guy sees that at 2:30 in the afternoon, he's got to get on his horse and go pick up 5 or 6 bundles of shingles because it was underestimated. He gets real quick how important estimating is.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And so I think the model that we have gives them a much deeper appreciation and understanding of what goes on when a roof is put on, as opposed to I do a lot of talking, I don't really do a lot of doing. And I think this model, and I think that me doing this alongside them, it changes the conversation considerably.
Well, yeah, because you're walking walking the talk, right? I mean, you're out on the in the field too, and in the front line. Sales is the front line, right? And so, um, and you're getting valuable experience. You can share that with the team. You mentioned marketing earlier. Let's talk a little bit about marketing. As you know, I'm a we have a digital marketing agency. We work with home service businesses around the country. Work with some roofers for sure. What have you found? Because I know when we talked, you talked about like your Google business profile, local service ads, um, and you also mentioned billboards, right? And billboards are working, which I find very unique. But what channels are working best? What's your best lead gen right now? Or I guess I should say lead generation.
Yeah, well, lead gen's fine. I get it,
Yeah.
but the listeners might not. But so I would say every year since opening, we've gotten better and more quality and quantity of referrals, but it's still only probably 10% of the business. The billboards are interesting for me in a study because geographically there are areas it works really well and other areas where people go, I never seen your billboard. Um, and so in West Virginia, believe it or not, I literally visited a guy yesterday. That was on my way to work. I saw your billboard. Now, yeah, let me call them Mighty Dog guys when I get home. And so I've had enough business off billboards to generate and easily pay for the billboard. So that's a no brainer in that area. But it doesn't work in Maryland at all. I tried it. It just I never had a customer tell me they bought it from saw me on a billboard.
Hey, if it's
Uh,
working in a certain area, producing a good ROI, I'm always advise our
yeah,
clients, they keep doing it, right?
yeah,
I'm not trying to take money from a certain channel because I think it all needs to be in digital. We're all about ROI. If it's got a good ROI, crank it. We work with a really big granite flooring company, and one of their territories is kind of outside of DFW called Granbury, Texas. But they actually do old school mailers out there and they work like a charm. But if he does them inside in Arlington, Texas, which is the heart of Dallas Fort Worth, Arlington's a 400,000 population. Mailers don't work. They don't get anything. So perfect example, what you're talking about with billboards. So he cranks out mailers out in Granbury, Texas, but in Arlington, Texas, not so well. And he also finds digital works much better in Arlington versus Granbury. So smaller town,
100%.
smaller mentality, I guess, still a little more old school. But he's like, man, nobody does these mailers and they work great. So you know, if billboards are working, keep cranking.
LSAs, those local service ads and the map pack are the top, lead generation tools.
Local
Um,
service ads are great. I'm curious, are you doing any Google paid ads as well, the pay per click, or you just do local service ads?
it's LSAs all day.
Okay.
Um, we did do pay per click when we started. The ratio of quality lead to income to cost per lead was not very good. With the LSAs and a little SEO tweaking on the website, we've been able to kind of drop that down into the $100, $110 range. For a while, it was 80 per lead, and I think my buddies figured out that I was killing them on LSAs, and so all of a sudden the price of LSAs went up and the bidding went up.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean that's just the nature of it. Um, I think that social is the last digital area for us to really dive into, and so we've dipped our toe in the water there a little bit. That's something I think we need to continue to foster.
So real quick I want to talk about social because I'm interested in what you're doing, but I want to give you for our listeners our experience with LSA ads. The reason why I asked Google Ads pay per click is that if you're doing both campaigns, we have found that doing a Google Ads campaign can also um, enhance the local service ads. And you don't even have to do a huge budget on the pay per click side. But running those in tandem and letting them kind of work together off each other, we have found has really helped and boost the LSA campaigns. And also another thing that can be helpful is actually in LSA, making sure you're going and actually scoring um, those leads and giving information back to Google. Google's an information company, and actually, I'm stealing what one of my guests said yesterday, but I agree with them 100% in that it is. It's a great way to explain it. Google's an information company, and the more information you give them on these leads from LSA can definitely enhance and lower, not only enhance the leads, but also lower that cost per click. So and I find a lot of business owners don't do that, right? They don't go in and score the leads. And so just a little
They don't even
FYI. And
they don't even know what the number one search terms are.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
it just and that's and
so
I always try to speak from a place of experience. This is our experience. I don't wanna ever sound like a know-it-all or, "Hey, if you just do this or that," because it's a lot of
there's
testing,
no
a lot of optimization with Google, right? They're really good at taking your money, and they don't care if they give you a good search phrase or a good lead, good click. They could care less. They just want their money. So, it's something that's gotta be watch very closely and optimize and so forth. Do you guys? I know we talked about this, but remind me: are you guys doing this in house, or are you using a separate an agency to run your LSA and so forth?
yeah, we use a third party. Part of the franchise thing was, you're going to get this website, you're going to get this service, and you're going to get this capability. On the marketing side, it's kind of up to you. How much do you want to spend on pay per click, LSA, social, whatever? Um, and we dabbled with a lot of things the first year. Second year, third year, we started tweaking things because we learned some things. And then the other thing too is, I will tell you, if you if you're a home exterior business and you think your business is just that, and you ignore the digital side of things, that's a level of naivete that's going to quickly end you.
Yeah,
Um,
you gotta play ball, so to speak, right? You gotta spend some
yeah,
money to make money, and the digital world is crucial. I mean, I think there's other channels like we mentioned, billboards, but
yeah.
it is important. I'm curious because I know using a franchise model, they have a site for you, right? And it may be geared towards your territory. Do they let, because you mentioned SEO, do they let third party agencies work on that site and do SEO? Because I found a lot of franchisors don't want agencies touching the website.
So we can ask that an agency be vetted, and
Hmm.
they go through a validation process, and then that agency is certified. Um, but because we don't own the domain,
Sure.
the SEO is a little bit limited as far as what you can do from for example, landing pages and things like that. I'd like to do a lot of stuff, but there's a little bit of handcuff there. Now they are changing things this year to give us a little bit more latitude, and I took it and flipped it upside down and said, how about you let me control the domain so that I can give my third party agency full rights to go make me money, and you audit the domain to make sure that I'm adhering to all the licensing rules, as opposed to I have to now go audit everything you're doing. Like, for example, there was an FAQ page stood up because that's a big deal. Okay, great. But my FAQ page can't say things like, please contact me for pricing on roofs in Williamsburg and Richmond, Virginia. Like, and they just made a wholesale change that rippled through all subdirectories. And so all of us in Boston, Pittsburgh, Connecticut, me, we had this FAQ page with this Williamsburg and Richmond, Virginia thing on it. And it's like, guys, you're killing me.
Yeah.
That's not helping me at all. In fact, it's really kind of not helping me. In fact, it's taking me backwards. And so I am spending an inordinate amount of time reviewing my content as opposed to building my business and focusing on things, and that's a little frustrating from a franchise perspective, but they have made some changes. They are going to give us a little bit more latitude this year. Social's kind of the wild, wild west, where we can do everything. There are some things that go out, posts that make 3 days a week or whatever, and there's some content that gets generated, and there's some paid ads, a little bit, not much, but that's an area that we want to dig into and see if we can't do it. The other area is, you mentioned AI early on. Um, there are some really good outbound cold calling solutions and that are doing well, and homeowners are not opposed to, having a conversation with someone about their, their home exterior needs.
You talking about like an
Um,
AI bot? I mean,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, no, it's real. It's funny you mentioned that. We are working on launching um, a big cold call campaign for like, I mean, it's what it is because we want to test it in all of our home service verticals. It's really, um, it's just a power of being able to make thousands of calls, right? And then have the power to tweak that message and really figure out what resonates to where we can at least with the client to show, to get interest to really have a call, right? To set up a I'm not expecting AI about to make a sale, but 'cause I still think sales and human interaction is huge, and that's AI can't do that. I can't hear, I can see you, I can hear your see your reactions, your voice inflections, but no, it's we're literally probably I'm hoping to launch that in the next couple of weeks. And is this something you guys are working on launching, or have you already launched it?
they've piloted it in a couple sites, and then they're doing I would say, um, in terms of software development, you had the alpha test, and you had the beta test.
Yeah.
And so they're beta testing now, and we're going to volunteer for the next round as they expand it.
I'm gonna make a note of that because I want to follow up with you. I want to hear how it's going. My last call today is with a guy that I'm working with on some AI stuff that he's already got built out. But I'd love to hear feedback on how it worked for you guys in using that as a new channel for basically just lead generation, right? Trying to generate. Hey, real quick on that content topic, content's still king. We're still big believers in that. So with the franchisor pumping out FAQs are more important now than ever because, AI is all about questions, right? I mean, I talk to clients right now. We're doing a lot of updating on our sites. We're going completely away from WordPress, and we've lived on WordPress forever. But we're really educating on what we call answer first websites, right? Where your website is really geared to answer the questions that these people are now putting into AI, right? And so FAQ is a big part of that. And if corporates got that messed up, for lack of a better word, yeah, that you got to watch that because that could really hurt you in quickly, right? And so,
Yeah,
just again, that's been of our experience because we started getting leads off AI, our agency did, and then we started seeing clients get leads a couple of years ago when chat was pretty new. And I think it's because we always spent so much premium on content in the beginning, and I think that resonated in the early days. So now there's even more of a shift. You mentioned social media doing posting, doing organic posting, and then also paid ads. Um, have you are you guys doing paid ads right now? Is that something you're just kind of dipping your toe into, or?
yeah. What we've done are two things. One, we've encouraged every rep to go out and build the following and mark their brand
Mhm,
in partnership with us, right, in the firm, and that's really important because it's, believe it or not, these guys develop a really good following on social media, and so when somebody in a local town, what's going on in Waynesboro is a Facebook page.
mhm,
Somebody says, I need a good, reliable roofer. They're willing to ask fellow Facebookers
sure,
over, because it's that word of trust, it's a trust, right? It's like, well, that person used these guys, so they're recommending them. And so, following and monitoring those pages to be able to quickly respond, with a direct message to the person asking the question, like, hey, we give free estimates, be happy to come by and give you something to think about. So that's going on. There's regular posts that go on to generate that consistency. And then lastly, we do some paid ads, although small right now. Um, and it's interesting. You said the Answer First website, and think about what I told you earlier about first to educate wins.
right. Yeah, yeah, no, it's the same. You're on. I mean, it matches 100% with what strategy we're recommending and what the big shift that we've been doing with our clients.
Yeah,
Um,
they told us, the other thing I know is that if we don't have an automated estimation tool online within the year, we're going to suffer because everybody wants an instant, what's it going to cost me to get a roof? And there's companies like Roofle and some others that you can instantly get a quote.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and this is why I tell homeowners, they can't tell what the pitch of the roof is. And so they're looking at a total square 2D model. And when you take 12 feet and you go like this, oh, well, I need another 6 or 8 feet to get a roof on. So that,
Yeah.
this is the dimensions now, right? With pitch. And so how do you build your site so that it gives the estimation range that's up, and it's compelling enough to have a customer want to call you and say, I need more information. And that's what it's amounted to. Uh, and how do you not fence yourself into, hey, I got a roof estimation from you for 12 grand. Your guy came out and visited and said it was going to be 13.5. What happened?
Yeah, I don't like the whole, big push for pricing and being awarded to have pricing options on your site because there's so many variables, right, that can
It's
go in.
terrible.
Even in our world, I mean, you know, uh,
Terrible. Who knows?
we try to we our pri a lot of our pricing is predicated on what the client needs. Like, what is the plan? What's our execution gonna be? Yeah, we have some base pricing, but, if I was just quoting X, then it's hard. Yeah, and then a great example of the roof because the pitch could be totally different than what they're able to pull online. Um, and it's interesting because social media, you got free reign. There's no website, right? I mean, so you can do whatever you want to do without corporate giving you a hard time. SEO is a struggle. You also mentioned just some of the analytics and Google tags that being put on the site was frustrating. Um, if there's one thing you could change in that franchise model when it comes to marketing, what would it be? And I don't want the franchisor Mighty Dog to get mad at us. So
No. So I've expressed this in a group setting of owners and the parent company. It was a roofing company that wanted to go digital. It wasn't a digital company that wanted to do roofing.
yeah,
And they didn't have people with the acumen necessary to be successful at adapting the digital world to this home exterior model. And I think that um, from a pricing perspective, having sold IT for years and know what people are spending on this stuff, it was like somebody came in and kind of took them to the cleaners a little bit for value, what you get. And so, shopping around and showing them what a WordPress and with a multiple directories, subtree should cost, and getting bids from other firms that I'd worked with in the past and saying, here's what I could get it for. Why are you paying this much and making me pay this much? Um, but I also understand the branding. I understand, the need to have consistency of brand and everything. So, but I think there's a way that they could better. I think none of us look. We all are happy with the branding, and none of us want to go against the branding. It's good branding. Um, but I could use it in a more advantageous and efficient way if I had a little bit more control over those things. So that'd be the one thing that I really wish they'd open up a little bit.
yeah, it's a common thing. We worked with franchises, and the franchisor and different franchisees and different business models, and I hear that theme a lot. Um, got a guy that's in the remodeling space and literally dealing with this right now with him and the franchisor, and so he's gotten approval to now use someone outside of their recommended agencies, and so he wants to work with us. But yeah, we've got to work through some things. It sounds like they're going to be open to letting us do some things because I think they really want to make him happy because I think he's a little bit frustrated. But my experience on that is keep hammering away, Chris. I mean, with the franchisor and hopefully you can get some leeway or have your agency test some things and show, hey, this actually works, right? And so, because I would keep pounding on the door there. Um, I'm curious as we kind of, I could talk to you all day, but kind of start circling back around and maybe wrap this thing up. But you've been in this business 4 years now, came from a totally different world. What's been harder than you expected?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the adaptation of IT to this business, I mean, believe it or not, we had this conversation at an owners meeting, and I said, you know, these are the struggles I have with the IT side of this and the cost of the IT. I know that there is a cost. It should be a relevant cost and bang for the buck kind of thing. And coming from IT and knowing IT for 35 years and not knowing the roofing was easy, believe it or not, to learn. The roofing was easy to learn. The estimation after about a year and a half, you kind of get the feel for this kind of roof is going to be this much waste, and this kind of roof is going to be this much
Sure.
waste, and you can figure that out, right? There is a finite finality to that. There's a finality to that. With IT and Google and AI, the landscape's changing literally by the day, and we have to be able to adapt to be relevant to our customers and be seen online.
Sure.
And that's been frustrating a little bit. Um, Other than that, I think you know, people are people. People buy from people they like. Um,
That's one of my favorite sayings. People buy people first. So
yeah, and so teaching the guys how to develop a rapport quickly. I can't tell you how many times I have customers tell me, I really appreciate all the information. I didn't know that.
yeah,
And, you told me more in 15 minutes than the other guy did in 3 hours.
yeah.
And, and that's a thing that I've been able to share with the guys. Um, and then they'll morph that into their, delivery mechanism. I say, here's some things you got to say, but how you say it, every guy is a little different. So, make it your own and own it, because
Sure.
making it your own gives you the credibility. Um, and I love the fact that, when you're done and you do a good job for somebody, the homeowner feels like I spent my money wisely. And that's really important to me. I think it's what gets you referrals. It's what gets you follow business. It's what, allows a homeowner that needs windows 5 years from now, to go, those guys were good to us. They were straight shooters. Let's go back to them. Uh,
My my next question was what's been more rewarding than you expected? And maybe you're answering it right now. So,
I
I mean,
think that I will tell you, I was a 1K person on United Airlines, which for people that don't fly a lot, that means that I flew a lot.
yeah,
100,000 miles a year is usually associated with somebody that's visiting Europe or Asia frequently. I was a 1K guy, never leaving the United States. So I was on a plane all the time. And now I don't deal with that. I don't have to deal with that. So my quality of life is 10x what it was. Um, and I mean, there's some owner privileges. I don't want to work on Friday. I just say, don't schedule nothing for Friday. Give it to somebody else.
sure.
And so there's that. Um, but the ultimate reward is 100% of my effort is felt by me and the people in this business in my little company, as opposed to I could do some great things for another company. And I was paid well. I'm not saying I wasn't, but you know, you help drive the ship and you create a certain line of revenue. You don't get a percentage of that revenue. You, you
Yeah.
know, you know,
It's yeah, that's the reward, right, for being, a business owner, an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is that you do control I mean, you paddle your own boat, right? And you do own the company, and you do have a percentage of those profits and so forth, and you can be rewarded for building something and then having an exit strategy, right? Um, and that can be a very handsome reward, and that's the payback for everything else we put up with in the part of owning a business, right? So, because it's glamorized on social media, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do, right? But to me, it's also the most rewarding. I've been a business owner 20 plus years. I don't ever want to go back. I do like controlling my own schedule and all that stuff. I played golf last Friday. I haven't played golf in forever. Not because I'm working so hard, but I really enjoyed going back out and playing with my buddies and like to start playing some more. But yeah, I just say I'm gonna take Friday off. I don't gotta get approved. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic too. I love when my team takes off. We give a lot of time off, a lot of paid time off, and I'm real big on family and taking vacations and encourage all my team. Hey, go Go do something fun, get away, and
I, uh, I
use it.
attended a seminar probably 25 years ago, and it was a guy who was a sports psychologist.
Yep.
His job was to help Ken Griffey Jr. overcome a hitting slump. His job was to help a world-class skier, make it to the Olympics and get a gold medal. That's the level this guy was, right? And he said something to me that I've never forgotten, and I've shared it with everybody that works for me. It resonated with me. It really stuck with me. And he said, "You have to be able to reach zero." And he went on to explain that in Western culture, we run at about 60%. We can't reach 100 because we're tired,
Right.
but we never go to zero because we're always trying to work. And
I
so
like that.
we end up in this steady 60% state. And he said, and using a sports metaphor, he said, "Do you know why the defensive line changes every couple of plays? Yes, the situation's changed, and they might want a different pass rush scheme, or they might want a different run block team, or what. But he said, ultimately, what it matters is the guy that's on the field has to be able to get to 100%. And you can't afford for him to play at 60 or you get run over."
Yeah.
And he said, in Western culture, we've got this mindset that we got to work all the time. We got our phones with us. 10 o'clock at night, you're having, conversation with your wife, ding, your phone, ding. Oh, look, there's a customer. I got to answer that. He said, you need to be able to reach zero so that you can reach 100. Because he said, this business of, yeah, coach, I'll give it 110%, physically not possible.
Yeah, we're real it's funny you mentioned the phone because we're one of our 3 core values is best customer service on the planet, so we really wanna take care of our clients, but I'm real big in, your time's your time, so I don't expect the team to answer emails and calls and all that during the night. And I got to where I was really bad at I would reply to everything, and I had a guy, probably the best sales guy I've ever had, he's not with us anymore, but he said, "Look, man, from 8 a.m. to 5, man, you got me 100%, And I was asking questions, but because you can't be texting me like at 8 o'clock at night because I gotta go to zero, is what he was
Yeah,
telling me. And he also just said, "Hey, I don't mind talking to a client if it's really important after hours," but he just said, if I take care of them and give them an exceptional service between normal work hours, 8 to 5, and if I don't reply to them after hours, but get back to them first thing, it's almost like you train that client, like, "Hey, you got me from 8 to 5, man. I'm here. I'm yours. But don't expect me to reply afterwards." Because he said once you reply once after hours, they now set that
expect
expectation. So I've lived by that the last 10 years, and it's really made my op hours time a lot better.
you definitely have to train people how to communicate with you to get optimal response and. And the other thing is, John Maxwell has this concept of, in leadership where if it's something that you alone can do and you can't teach someone else to do it, then do it. But if you can teach someone else to do it, teach them to do it and
Yeah.
stop doing it. And if it's something that you shouldn't do at all, understand that and give it up and don't do it anymore. And businesses every day, it's like, we were talking about this with some of the fast food guys. I remember, you know, you used to not be able to get breakfast at a fast food place.
Sure.
When I was a kid, you didn't go to fast food restaurants for breakfast.
Yeah. Yep.
It was 11 o'clock and after, right?
Yep.
And then they realized, hey, there's a market that's needing served. And so the first guy comes up and he pops out this breakfast thing. And then you got taco places that are selling taco burritos, breakfast burritos, and now everybody's doing it, right? Okay, great. There was a niche to fill. But somebody has to make a decision and say, I'm Subway subs. I do subs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that the best I can, but that's what I'm going to do, and that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes there's an important lesson to be learned from this. It's like us. Like there's a lot of things we could do, but I can't be great at everything.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way. I say the hard way. We learned that in our early days of digital, trying to be everything to everybody in the world of digital, and
You, yeah, you end up
not.
diluting yourself.
It's like right now, like we don't do any e-commerce, and we did e-commerce back in the day, But we did it's not like we were horrible at it. I didn't like it. I don't know, we weren't great at it, and I just said, "Let's just focus on things that we're really, really good at." So, if someone came to me and said, "I got $1 million a month budget for e-commerce," I would say even today, "I'm not your guy, but I know someone who is your guy," right? So I always try to have a resource or 2 to point them to, "Hey, they are the e-commerce kings. Go talk to them. They'll be happy to help you." But no, it's a great point. My last question for you, Chris, is there's a young Chris Black out there, or maybe there's a Chris Black that recently retired, right? And is thinking about starting a business. What advice would you give to that person if they came and said, "Oh, hey, Chris, I know you jumped into this roofing game. I'd love to do it too." What advice do you have for me?
Roofing, really? Uh,
Yeah, other than run. No, don't do it.
yeah, I think if I were 25, and I hate the cliche of I wish I knew then what I know now, but man, when you get to 65, you go, I wish I knew then what I know now. It's
Sure.
so true. Um, I would tell somebody that, and I had this conversation with my youngest daughter. I said, look, you you're struggling because you say you can't identify your career. I said, so why don't you do this? Why don't you take a map and map out what you think your great skills are? And then of the great skills, which ones could you see yourself doing every day? And which ones could you see, yeah, I'm good at it. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And chuck it off the list. I said, now do a survey, a market survey in this area and find out of those skills, what are the jobs or opportunities that fill a gap, a need in that community that uses those skills. And I said, then go create yourself a business to satisfy that need. And I
Love it.
said, because that is it's the one failing that we've done in this. I remember as a kid, it was go be an engineer. In the 70s, it was go be an engineer. What kind of engineer? I don't care. Just be an engineer. And it's like, okay, so the market gets flooded with engineers. And in the 80s, it was like, boy, you got to get into data processing. Boy, if you ain't data processing, you're missing the boat.
Sure.
Well, then that became a dime a dozen, right? And so one thing that's always interesting is if there's a need and you're the only guy that can fill the need, you can charge whatever you want.
Right.
I remember Oracle guys coming in charging $400 an hour to do a modification to an Oracle database. Why? Because there's nobody else that could do it.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? AI might be getting rid of a lot of jobs, but there are some jobs they can't get rid of. They can't put shingles on a house. They can't put siding on a house. They can't put plumbing in a house. They can't wire a house, right? And so the blue collar jobs that everybody kind of like, it's like, man, hold on a second. That kid could go to Votech, get an education, be an electrician, and he could go start his own company.
With all these big data centers they're building, electricians I've heard of late are going to be in big need. So that's yeah, no, that's all good. Good input. I mean, good thoughts there. I mean, it's the trades are very interesting. Private equity money's been big the last several years, and
Still is.
I was just listening to a podcast on my walk yesterday, and he mentioned plumbing. Like, hey, because they were talking about the jobs and what it could take and this and that and what AI could replace. But he mentioned like, one of the things I'd recommend if I was talking to someone about a career is plumbing. It's not going to come and repair your sewer line, right?
I
Uh,
had I had AI draw up a logo for a plumbing firm,
did you? Yeah, yeah.
and it's erase the deuce.
There you go. Well, I like that too. I think that's a good place. That's a good place to hit on some humor there. Uh, Chris, for any of our listeners that are in your area that might need a new roof, siding, gutters, windows, or even a deck, how can they find you? What's the best way to find you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do it is mightydog.roofing.com. Type in your zip code, we'll pop up there. Um, you'll find us on the Owens Corning website as a preferred contractor. You'll find us on the Certainty. If you're looking for siding, we're on their website as well. You can check us out with the Better Business Bureau.
Love
And
that.
then ultimately, mightydogroofing.com/ Waynesboro-PA will take us right to our site, and or Martinsburg-WV.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for being on the show, Chris. It's been fun talking to you. You got a wealth of knowledge, and again, what a great story, man. Great path of 35 years in that IT world, now to and later in life into the roofing world. So, best of luck to you. I hope this summer's good to you guys. I hope you hit your goals for the year and all that good stuff. And I really appreciate you being on the show. And I want to keep in contact with you because I want to hear how the AI cold calling campaign goes.
Absolutely, man. It really was fun.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it, Chris.
You bet.